So the basics of this training is and the reason that we do this is so that we can translate the training into many different languages. And we do this by using symbols. And the first symbol that we want to talk about is the conversation, the ability to have the coaching conversations so you can listen. So that looks like a set of headphones. And the idea is that you have the conversation with your client, you set up the environment, have a professional conversation, and you learn how to listen as a professional. The next symbol we talk about is the continuum. And the continuum is glasses, the ability to see where the conversation is going. The third one is the system, the ability to see how the system is changing. We are looking to have a coaching conversation to shift culture. Leaders in organizations use coaching as a skill to influence the workplace culture, into getting the workforce to align with the strategy and vision of the organization. And in the corporate world, that's to return shareholder value. And what we do here in the coaching space is to increase recovery capital. That's what we're trying to do. So we're trying to move our clients, create a learning environment, a culture of learning, that they understand what a culture of addiction is, what the problem is, and how they can use coaching to move towards a culture of recovery. And when that happens, the system changes, and with a culture of spirituality, we're looking at the 4Q model, and that's a leadership model. And finally, our final system is the container. So we start off with the conversation, the continuum, the system, the 4Q model, and then creating the container. And now I'm going to go deeper into each one. So, what is a coaching conversation? Let's place the conversation first. So, if we look at a culture of learning, children go to nursery school, they go to primary school, they go to high school, they go to university, they go out into the world, and we all learn. We are continuously learning. And we're creating an adult learning environment here where we are coming together with our clients to have what's called a co-creative, collaborative conversation. So co-creative is me and you are going to work out what the conversation is. Collaborative is we're in this together, and it's a conversation. It's about talking. It's about talking, about listening. And from that conversation, our client learns about a culture of addiction, where they are. And a culture of addiction, we talk about a continued behavior in spite of the negative consequences. So our clients, they can enter an environment where everyone in the world uses. Everybody uses a substance of some sort. Coffee, food, sex, work, whatever it is. That doesn't matter once people are using. What we're interested in is when people start to misuse and abuse a behavior, and then that behavior becomes abusive and they become dependent on it. And once people are dependent, we need to be able to see where they are and refer to treatment of some sort or to some additional professional. And what the coaching conversation does is what the recovery coaching conversation does is we place it here in this environment, which is a place of wellness. The person has enough comprehension and insight to their own problem to come up with a solution which is suitable for them. And that's what a culture of recovery is. So culture of recovery is where we move our clients into the solution. And we surround that in a culture of spirituality. In a culture of spirituality, what we talk about is principles, spiritual principles, like honesty, willingness, hope, etc. And in this conversation that we're having with our clients, we will hopefully model those principles and put out those principles so our clients can understand and recognize them, to see what it looks like to break the isolation of living in a culture of addiction, living in the problem. So as the system starts to change, so here's our client, and they went through life, and they had a problem and they ended up here, and now they're over here. Their family members and people around them have been or continue to be impacted by their behavior wherever they are. So people that are in a culture of addiction and they've descended down, if this is somebody that you care about, that they would have been impacted by their behavior, and this person would have been impacted by their behavior. So from a systemic point of view, we're starting to look at the system of how people get impacted. So addiction is called a systemic illness, and what that means is one person's behavior impacts the whole system. So if we just look at how alcohol abuse impacts the world, this person gets drunk, they go out drinking and driving, they have a car accident, they kill somebody, that person's impacted, their family's impacted, and society is impacted. And what happens is the cost and care really influence the system. So if people don't confront the problem, the costs in the long run increase. And the more time you spend focusing on the solution, the impact of the addictive behavior gets reduced. Now, to be able to do that, you need to have take leadership in the situation. And we talk about having the coaching conversation to improve outcomes, and we want to improve IQ, which is technical ability. So that's what part of the training does, is it teaches you the technique, the skill set to have the conversation, to see where the continuums are going, and to see how the system is constructed. And once you're in the system, you need to have emotional intelligence, EQ, which is the ability to read your own emotions and how you're responding, the other person's emotions and how they're responding, and engage in a way that influences change. And we need to do that with some spiritual intelligence, which is SQ, which is about the ability to, I can see how I'm feeling, I can see how I'm engaging with someone else. I need to do it in a way that is spiritually, ethically, morally enlightened, for want of a better word. You don't want to do harm. Doctors have a lot of power, and the baseline principle there is to do no harm. And it's the same with coaching. And we're not doctors, by the way. We're coaches. And then the final thing is PQ, which is political intelligence. The ability to build relationships. And then what we do is we take this model here, and if we place it over here, part of the Part of the IQ is what you will learn the technical ability. The EQ is the ability to read yourself and your emotions and somebody else. SQ, well, is the ability to then put those spiritual principles into practice so you can show up in an authentic way, which is good. And then PQ is the ability to build relationships that can go out into the world and affect change and to help move the world from a culture of addiction. Now, if we look at the world, everyone's kind of impacted with instant gratification. So instant gratification is short-term relief for long-term pain. And what we're looking for in a culture of recovery is coaching that person, holding them in a space where they can experience short-term pain for long-term relief. And I mean, if we just look at cell phone addiction, for example, if we look at work, if we look at whatever it is, now often that short-term pain is about feeling. Feeling uncomfortable, I want short-term relief, or I've been through a hard time and I need some sort of reward. And in the neuroscience of things, we're looking for dopamine release and to feel rewarded, and that's what a culture of addiction does. It's instant gratification, so it's instant dopamine release to help me feel better about myself, because right here, right now, I'm unable to sit with the feelings and the uncomfortableness. And I'm trying to be coached to start to bring awareness to the way that I'm responding and to find tools outside of myself to help me cope with that so I have long-term life of meaning and purpose. So the whole point of the coaching relationship, so I'm going to engage with you, I'm going to set up a container where we have a conversation that's going to get you to become aware of your behavior and what's going on, so that the relationship can start to move towards a culture of recovery or a life of meaning and purpose. Thanks for watching. Okay, so let's carry on. We've got our organization, we've got the workforce here, we've got the structure, we've got history, we've got the culture, and then we've got the experience. And what we're looking at is for leadership and management, around how recovery coaching can assist the organization in creating mentorship. And then we've got the biopsychosocial model, which is often the EAP program that we refer people to, and the medical world. And what we're looking for within the organization is that as people deteriorate and they move down towards the crisis point, the culture of addiction, that there's an intervention that we can start to move people towards a culture of recovery, which is the solution. Now, each organization is going to have a different culture, and what we're trying to do is get the individual to take responsibility for their recovery, whatever that is, and how they're going to get there, so that they can make better use of the biopsychosocial model, clinical psychologists, social workers, therapists, whatever it is, to make better use of the medical intervention, doctors, psychiatrists, and to get into a self-help type environment that's going to be supportive of them moving towards a culture of recovery and moving away from the culture of addiction. And we do that using coaching, which is a culture of learning. So the coach is creating an adult learning environment for the individual to see where they are within the system and then to take responsibility and make better use of the recovery capital that is available within the organizational culture. And that recovery capital is available not only for the individual but for management and leadership. And so that's what the training's about. We use symbols because it's easy to explain and talk about a picture. And the first part is how to have the coaching conversation, how to listen. We use headphones. The second one is the continuum, which is glasses to see how we're going, what progress is being made. Coaching is a short intervention to affect change. If change isn't happening, there needs to be referral. Then to get an idea of the systemic change that is happening. Systemically, we're trying to change culture from a culture of addiction towards a culture of recovery. We're using a leadership model, the 4Q leadership, where we're looking at IQ, EQ, SQ and PQ, technical intelligence, emotional intelligence, spiritual intelligence and political intelligence, the ability to build relationships with people within the organization, all the different stakeholders and role players, and finally, can you create containers or leadership meetings, circles, where this sort of stuff can get discussed and change can happen, shift happens. And that's really what the training is about and the skill set is about. And what we've really done is we've taken business coaching from that and applied it in the culture of addiction to do an intervention. So using coaching as an intervention when there's a problem that keeps kind of repeating itself, and to move the organization to a culture of recovery. And that's what our EAP stuff's about. Thank you for watching. Okay, so let's move on to the coaching conversation. There's a symbol, and the way that the coaching conversation starts is, first of all, you check in. Check in. So checking in is checking in with yourself. How are you feeling? What's going on? So your client might be here and you say, how are you checking in today? I'm checking in feeling I'm a bit tired, I'm a bit self-conscious, the camera makes me nervous, I've got a bit of fear around this, but that's how I'm checking in. And the client will then tell you how they're feeling and what's going on for them. And then the next thing is to contract. Why are you here? What is it that you want to be getting out of the coaching conversation? And the contract has two parts to it. There's one is time. So we're going to coach for an hour. So 1 hour. But over 6 sessions. And at the end of the 6 sessions, there's going to be an outcome which is based on the client's own agenda. What does a client want to get out of coaching? And there's going to be the financial exchange. So David, I'm a professional coach. I'm going to show up in a professional way. You've come to my coaching practice. You're going to pay me money for me to engage with you for a period of time, and you're going to get a return on your investment, yes, by engaging in doing your part to get your outcome. Yeah? And once we've done that, we've then got the container. Yeah. So just taking it down to the symbol here, we've got the C, C, C. Yeah. Then we ask our client, what's their agenda? What would you like to be coached on today? What do you want to get out of this session? What would you like me to hold the space for you? So let's just put the A there for the agenda. And then what we do is we ask our clients questions. Yep. 2 types of questions are open questions and closed questions, and then we listen. There's 2 types of listening levels 1, there's 3 types of listening levels 1, 2 and 3. Level 1 is about me, I'm listening to respond. Level 2 listening is about I'm listening to the content and I'm watching how you're responding, how you're reacting, what your body language is saying. And level 3 is I'm listening to the relationship and how we're going. And so it's about me, it's about you, and it's about us. So that's levels 1, 2 and 3. And this is what the coach's responsibility for. The client takes responsibility for their part in it. And this is where the coaching relationship lives. It's me holding the space, and then the client brings, what do they bring to us? They bring their needs, their values, or we listen for their needs and their values to get to a place of purpose. Meaning and purpose. So hopefully our clients are coming to us and they're paying us money to get help and support to moving towards a life of meaning and purpose. Because that's what a culture of recovery is. And at the end of the conversation, as we start to close out, we need to come out with an action step, a task, because we want to start to move our clients towards that. So what's one small step that they can take to start to move towards that? So we're always forwarding the action and deepening the learning. And then when the client comes back for the next session, we hold them accountable. And to hold someone accountable is to get them to give you an account of what's going on, what's working, what's not working. We are not there to kind of hold people accountable to guilt and shame them. It's like, oh, so what have you learned? What's going on? What do we need to do better? But we're continuously trying to move someone along to be better. So if it was career coaching or something, what steps did you make to further yourself in your career? What steps did you make to further yourself in your recovery? What steps have you done to further yourself in your relationship? What steps have you done to get yourself into a better place of health and well-being? And that's really what the conversation is about, and where we go and what we do. So hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. We are looking for our clients to move. Things to improve. Now we have 4 continuums that we're talking about. The first one is one of high well-being to premature death. Yeah? The second one is going from use to misuse to abuse to dependence. The third one is around relationships, when a relationship is codependent, independent, and then interdependent. And then the final one is from abstinence, addiction, and then harm reduction. And what we're looking for as the coach is to be able to see how the relationship that we've created with our client is moving up and down towards high well-being or premature death. Take it into the workplace context, into the problem, or moving it towards a solution. Yeah. Whether the person is in a place of using, yeah. Whether they're misusing, abusing, or they're dependent on the substance. So this is use, misuse, abuse, dependence. They've gone mad. How the system and all the different role players within the system, where there's codependency, where there's independence, and how we want to get to a place of interdependence when we're all in this together. Yeah? And how to get people to move from the high risk of a culture of addiction, yeah, to one of abstinence, yeah, which is basically a life of meaning and purpose, and how we can get to a place of harm reduction and be on that journey. Because a lot of our clients and a lot of coaching is about holding that person as they descend, and then to try and do an intervention, a coaching intervention, to bring systemic change, to get that client to move towards a culture of recovery. Because if we don't intervene, the risk is huge, and the impact and the consequences are devastating. So whether you're an organization, whether you're family members, whether you're society at large, there's a huge cost here. And we know that for each dollar we spend on creating recovery capital, we save $4 on the judicial system, which is imprisoning people, punishing people, and we save $3 on the medical world, which is treating people. So that's a total of $7 for each $1 that we spend. And that's a huge return on investment. And if we don't do that, which we're not doing, the cost to society is $7. However, people don't want to invest that because I guess they're in denial, or it's quite difficult to address this stuff, because people look at this and think, oh my God, what's my return on investment going to be? Not understanding the impact of not addressing it and the cost to society as a whole. And this is really what we're working for and towards, is to bring awareness to this. Thanks for watching. Okay, so moving along. So now what we want to do is talk about the system and the relationship that everyone has within the system and what each individual's role is. So here you are as a coach, you're in the center of the system, you're bringing your authentic self to an environment that is in a culture of addiction, where they don't know how to move forward. They're impacted by somebody's addictive behavior, and that person thinks that they're in a state of use, possibly misuse, or maybe they're abusing a substance, but whatever it is, they've gone mad. Yep. And they cannot see that they've gone mad. Whereas the workplace environment, from their perspective, can clearly see that there's dependent behavior going on. And what we're trying to do then is to bring care, support to the system, where we can provide cooperation, get this person to make use of the resources that the system is providing to them. That's the system has provided care and compassion. So in this part of the system here, what we're trying to provide is cooperation, provide care, and be compassionate. To all the role players that are within the system. So within the workplace context, the system is often made up of the individual, HR, management, OD, marketing, whatever. And there are a whole lot of other people within the system that are being impacted by this person's behavior. Yep. And there's a whole lot of consequences, intended or kind of unintended. Yep. It's not like this person and their behavior wants to impact these people, but is even aware of the impact. So often what the coach's job within the systemic environment is to build relationships with various role players within the system that they can get support, they can feel supported, to reduce the risk and the potential impact if people are unable to contain, confront and commit to the solution. So the skill set that you're trying to coach for in this side of the system is the ability to contain, confront, and then to commit to the process. Because moving from a culture of addiction towards a culture of recovery requires commitment. You need to be able to confront the person, so you need to be able to say, oi, there's a problem here, and if you don't make use of the resources that we're providing for you to contain the problem, then we've got a problem. And that problem is often because the person or the system doesn't know how to deal with the emotional side of things. And that the relationship is often in a place of codependency. Yeah? So codependency for us is when you base your emotions, your sense of being, on somebody else's behavior. So I can't confront this person because for whatever reason it brings up too much anxiety for me. I care for my employee too much, or I'm too angry with them. You sort it out, or whatever it is. So the relationship is codependent, and then on this, then we have independence, and then what we're trying to do is get to interdependence. Yeah? And then interdependent relationship, is where the whole system is working together to support this person. And what the system needs to realize is that they didn't cause a problem, they can't cure it, and they can't control it. They're often in a fantasy that they can. All they can do is limit the consequences of that person's behavior, that until this person is able to kind of realize and take personal responsibility for themselves, and all the family members within the systems take responsibility for their part, we're not going to get much shift systemically within the environment. And this is what we're continuously trying to do, is to create interventions where the coach brings their authentic self in an environment that's in crisis, chaos and conflict, to shift from a culture of addiction towards a culture of recovery. Seems like I just repeat this stuff over and over and over again. And that's what we're trying to do. That's what the coaching intervention is doing. Empowering personal responsibility to create an environment where this person takes responsibility and accountability for their own behavior and consequences thereof, and everyone else in the system takes responsibility for their part and the role that they find themselves within the system. Thanks for watching.